In a few months' time, the Black Widow film is going to grace our silver screens. As a result, it's got our noggins working. We have a theory that may just make Phase 4 the most exciting phase in the MCU's history. Are we being hyperbolic? Maybe. Or maybe we're onto something. It all involves the next big bad of the MCU. Let's just say that Captain America Civil War plays a major role in today's theory as well. Black Widow is set to happen in between the events of Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. After what happened in Civil War, we have a fun idea about what Natasha Romanoff is actually doing in Black Widow. What if she was sorting out a plot thread from Civil War? One that involves Crossbones and a hidden puppeteer? Fun, right? Firstly, Brock Rumlow is the man behind the skeleton pattern suit. We first see him in Captain America Winter Soldier. Rumlow was a SHIELD operative. He led an elite team called Strike. Rumlow even saved Captain America's life when they rescued hostages from Batroic's ship.
Thanks. Yeah, you seem pretty helpless without me.
So Rumlow is clearly a nice guy, right? Wrong! This whole time, Rumlow had been working for Hydra. He attempted to aid the nefarious group in overthrowing S.H.I.E.L.D. and taking over the world. Near the end of Winter Soldier, Sam Wilson faced off against Rumlow. Only, the future Cap wasn't faring too well, until a helicarrier came crashing into the building they were fighting in. Falcon escaped, but Rumlow suffered horrific injuries from the debris and fire. After he woke up with grim facial scars, Hydra had fallen. So Rumlow decided to become a self-employed baddie. Along with his scars, Rumlow realized he no longer felt pain. His life was in ruins. In his view, the Avengers, especially Captain America, took everything from him. So he took up the persona of Crossbones with nifty weapons and armor. We then pick up with Crossbones in Civil War. He and his henchmen are in Nigeria attempting to steal a biological weapon for an unnamed buyer. Remember that. It's key info for later. Anyway, the Avengers turn up to ruin the heist. After a little back and forth, Steve Rogers wins, so like a sore loser, Crossbones activates an explosive device to take himself and Cap out. Well, Scarlet Witch wasn't having that. She contains Crossbones and his explosion. She then lobs him into a building of civilians. Yeah, whoops. From there, the Avengers are split due to the Sokovia Accords. Team Iron Man versus Team Cap. At the end of the film, Team Cap goes into hiding to escape Tony Stark and the government. We next see them in Infinity War when Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight attempted to take the Mind Stone for Thanos. As we all know, Black Widow isn't long in the MCU. After making the choice to sacrifice her life for the Soul Stone, she's out of the main continuity, hence why the Black Widow film is set in the MCU past. One of the main baddies in this film is set to be Taskmaster. For those unsure on who that is, well, he's a dangerous foe. He has the ability to mimic any fighting style he sees. As a result, he's probably the most lethal fighter in the MCU. In the comics, he's shown to wear a skull mask and carry a shield and sword. Beyond them both wearing skeletal costumes, there might be another factor that unites Taskmaster and Crossbones. Neither are known for leading large groups of people. Usually, they're depicted as dangerous mercenaries that's doing a job for someone else. And that person could be, drum roll, please, the Galactus Cloud from Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Okay, in all seriousness, Norman Osborn. Not only does he have an iconic hairstyle, Osborn could be the big bad for Phase 4. Norman Osborn is a big fixture in the comic world. He first became known as a terrible person for being the Spider-Man villain, the Green Goblin. He was involved in the demise of Gwen Stacy. From there, Osborn would be a pain in Peter Parker's derriere for decades, but then he graduated to another prey. He became an Avenger villain after his rise to power in the aftermath of Secret Invasion. He became the head of Hammer, who replaced S.H.I.E.L.D. He then formed his own Avengers, informally known as the Dark Avengers. The group was mostly formed from supervillains cosplaying as heroes. As we know from earlier, Crossbones was stealing the bioweapon for an unnamed source. When that mission failed, Crossbones didn't really care. It was like there wasn't a real buyer. Instead, it may have been his plan to face the Avengers. But what if there was a buyer? One that only had just started their career into world domination. Being new, a seasoned thug like Crossbones may not respect the buyer. After all, reputation is everything in those circles. At the time, there was a strong rumor that Osborn was the puppeteer of Crossbones in Civil War. Once Crossbones failed in his mission, Osborn would have needed a new minion to carry out his schemes. That's where Taskmaster steps into the spotlight. Osborn still needs his plans completed, whether it's to steal another bioweapon or something else, so he immediately brings Taskmaster on board to oversee everything. Black Widow would probably get some intel that there was a hidden villain behind Crossbones' attempted theft. She would then look into it. This would lead her all around the world. As she gathers more and more evidence, it begins to upset Osborn. Now, he's fearing for his secrecy. To nip that in the bud, he sends Taskmaster to take out Romanoff and anyone else that she's working with. As she's not hanging out with the Avengers, it's her spy-mally that's targeted.
Family, back together again.
Romanoff now has to fight off Taskmaster, protect her chums, and find out the secret buyer's identity. She may never get the opportunity to find out who the individual is, but we might get a hint by the end of the film, such as a silhouette of his cornrow-esque hairdo. If Osborn is introduced during that stage, that will give him a number of years to consolidate power. The Avengers were distracted by Thanos during Infinity War. With all that was going on, Osborn could have been completing his checklist of power. Then once Thanos snaps his fingers to wipe out half of all life in the universe, there's a 50-50 chance that Osborn will be spared. Hypothetically, let's say he didn't get dusted. The MCU is then left in a broken state for 5 years. The remaining Avengers spent their time trying to reverse the snap, solving problems caused by the snap, or just retiring from super antics like Tony Stark. It's the perfect opportunity for Osborn to continue building his empire of power. The heroes are either gone or distracted. A dodgy character could do so much when they don't have the Avengers breathing down their neck. Osborn could go from a disrespected newbie villain to one of the most feared evils in the world. In that time, we could even see Osborn create a faction that resembles the Dark Avengers. If Taskmaster lives beyond Black Widow, he could be involved. We never actually saw Crossbones' body after his Scarlet Witch inspired boom. He could be alive and kicking. In an interview with the actor of Crossbones, Frank Grillo, he even hinted that Crossbones still could be about. Assuming Crossbones survived the snap, perhaps he was recovering during those years. Once we reach the present MCU day, he's recovered and working for Osborn. Considering he has a bone pattern costume like Taskmaster's comic variation, it's already coming together well. Anyway, to fill up the team, we could have Carl Mordo step in for the mystic element. With Doctor Strange off in the multiverse of madness, Mordo might not have a role in those events, so let's shift him over to Osborn. To take on the role of Powerhouse Tank, there's Abomination from 2008's The Incredible Hulk.
Is that all you've got?
Then add in other possibilities like Iron Man 2's annoyance, Justin Hammer, or Spider-Man foes Scorpion and Shocker. So go evil team! There are still many MCU villains that didn't kick the bucket that will still be plotting about. Osborn's team could even bring in new characters from the comics' Dark Avengers roster, such as the Bullseye, Sentry, Ares, Daken, or Moonstone. Once the team is assembled, eventually, there will be a fight with the proper Avengers. However, after the destruction of the snap, most of the world is going to be a wee bit scared of the Avengers. In their eyes, they didn't stop Thanos' plan, even though the Avengers did fix the problem, but people can be difficult. If Osborn plays the battle well, the Avengers could end up looking like the baddies to the world, in a similar effect to when he slayed the Skrull Queen at the end of Secret Invasion. Then, the Avengers get rejected in favor for Osborn's crew. Thus, the comic-inspired dark reign of the MCU. With a plan like that, Osborn could even become a villain through to Phase 5, instead using Phase 4 as his rise to power. Once he's in command, the Avengers have to go into hiding. They've just been humiliated by the Dark Avengers in the public eye. Perhaps Captain Marvel or Thor were wrecked by Sentry or Ares. As a result, they've lost their confidence. It will be difficult not to repeat Thor's story from Endgame. The Avengers have never been at their lowest in the public eye. At least when the snap happened, the world didn't hate them as furiously as this. The Avengers will have to pull themselves up. They'll have to fight back Osborn's influence from the shadows. After all the space venturing in Phase 3, it might be a nice change of pace to have the stories more grounded to Earth. But if it's not Norman Osborn as the shadowy mastermind, then who? Well, we could have the Mandarin be the hidden evil, especially with the villain playing a role in Shang-Chi. Perhaps it could be Dr. Doom trying to power up Latveria. The Fantastic Four could be introduced along the way. Or maybe we could have the Red Skull return from his monk sabbatical and attempt to reclaim his former nasty glory. Perhaps it might be someone else.
Hydra.
What we do know is that Phase 4 is going to be really exciting. And And that's a wrap. Do you think that this theory works? Could Norman Osborn be the shadowy big bad? Plop your thoughts in the comments below. If you thought this video was alright or passable, then give us a like and share it. It helps us in a marvelous way. Huh? See what we did there? Later, skater.